welcome to an all-new fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is me. I am Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch our other 6 live shows throughout the week. If you happen to miss them, you can go back and listen and watch them at your own leisure. So make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can catch the audio version of this program, Second City Sports, by subscribing to our podcast at War or Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in your search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. Once again, at War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very different opinions. If you have an opinion of any of our topics during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid, I'm giving Lakeena full bowl to give you fools to bill and beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. Lakeena, let's kick off this Monday edition of Second City Sports by discussing Chicago baseball. Let's head to the South Side first. The White Sox lose 3-4 to the New York Yankees over the weekend. Yesterday, Michael Kopech got his teeth kicked in for that 3rd inning. He settled down after that as the Yankees took the finale on the South Side by the score of 5-1. The Yankees outscored the White Sox for the majority of their series. The White Sox the night before on Saturday took won the only game of that series by the score of 3-2, thanks to Lou Bob, a.k.a. La Pantera, Luis Roberts' RBI single in the 9th inning, scoring Tim Anderson. Lakeena, a couple of things that I learned from this series this weekend. The Yankees are that damn good. Number 2, the White Sox, despite the injuries and inconsistencies with their offense, they still have a miles to go. And number 2, Joe Kelly almost gave it away on Saturday. But remember, folks, he's only been up here a week, so give him a little bit more time. And number 3, I'm usually not on the TRL, good grief, Tony La Russa train. I was thinking about music. Maybe we'll get in there later. Yeah, maybe we'll get in there later. But I'm not usually on the Tony La Russa bandwagon of bashing him just because. But yours truly has an issue with him. We'll discuss.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think that series was just a wild series for the White Sox, unfortunately. And look, the Yankees are like one of the hottest teams in baseball right now, so there's really no shame in the fact that you lose 3 out of 4, but 2 out of 3 I should say. But at the same time, though, I think you saw a little bit of remnants there. I mean, look, Kopech looked really good yesterday. Unfortunately, the Sox bats kind of let him down, and everything else is sort of just kind of twofold. I mean, you probably should have been swept if not, Joe Kelly had not almost blown that save. But it is what it is, and you just take the lumps from that Yankee series. You were able to win a game, you survived, and now you have a pretty interesting week this week. So it's you're at Kansas City. We'll get to some news about them in a second. Then you have like some of the other series. You got to go to you facing the Yankees again, this time in New York this weekend. So that's going to be a whole nother thing. So yeah, so you're going to be seeing the Yankees a lot these next couple of weeks. And look, if you're the White Sox, I mean, you just got to try to take it one series at a time and try to kind of inch over in that lead in the AL Central.
You're lucky. The White Sox are lucky they're 1 game under 500, and number 2, they're in the AL Central. We know what the Tigers did over the weekend. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But the White Sox, they're still in a good position to get on that good run. And we saw this around this time last year, and they took off and they never looked back. This year is going to be a little bit different, but the White Sox still have a good enough team to to perhaps make a run. And I expect them to do that here. Now, as far as my Tony La Russa rant on Saturday night, I know he took out Dallas Keuchel after the fifth inning, and Dallas
Hmm.
Keuchel has been pitching his what off these last three starts, I should say. And so as of right now, Dallas Keuchel has earned a spot in this rotation and on this roster overall. He brought in Kendall Graveman for 2 innings on Saturday. Graveman did a
Hmm.
great job. He's been almost lights out all year, except for a couple of hiccups here and there. But then Tony La Russa brought in Joe Kelly in the eighth inning, cannot get an out, and thus bringing in your closer Liam Hendricks as for a 5-out save. Now I know Hendricks did it a couple of times last year, but I don't want to depend on him to do that all the time.
And again,
Now
that's well. Go ahead, sis. Sorry.
Now, Liam Hendricks is a gamer. Yes, he is, but I don't want to. I know Lou Russo was trying to win that game on Saturday, in which the White Sox did, despite his managerial style. But bringing in Liam Hendricks to for a 5-out save, I strongly disagree with that. I know Hendricks eventually gave it up in the ninth inning, but Joe Kelly doesn't have it right now. I will use him in. I'm not going to say mental relief, but he may have to still do that at this point. We'll see what happens. How Lou Russo uses him going forward because he still is trying to get his timing back. He's trying to get his conditioning back. So I wouldn't use him in pressure situations yet. But Lou Russo threw him in there in the fire, and Kelly failed. Now I'm not going to sit here and say that Joe Kelly was a waste of money. He just got on the club last week, so I'm not going to go that far. But some of the lineups too, I'm not going to go in on him as much. But you kind of want to shake your head. But I really had a problem with his management of that bullpen. It still looks great on paper. Actually, we talked about this before, Lakeena. The bullpen for the White Sox has been one of their strengths so far this season,
Hmm.
with the lack of offensive consistency.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem for the Sox. I think the fact that there is no consistency on offense. I mean, they scored. I mean, it's sort of one of those things where look, every time they try to get to try to maybe have a rhythm going, the Yankees defense, the Yankees pitching kind of just shut the door on whatever run they try to get together. Now they did hold the Yankees to. I know they gave up 10 runs in that Friday on Friday. Then they only gave up two. They were to win that game with three.
Mhm.
And yesterday, it's sort of interesting too because Kopech was pitching very well. Now, unfortunately, like I said, the Sox offense kind of didn't have it for him to help him out, and it's sort of one of those things where everything has to kind of click together. You can't afford to have, especially if you're trying to go far in the AL Central, even far further than that in the AL. You can't depend on hope that your pitching is good, and then it can pick up the slack from the hitting, or vice versa.
Mhm.
Everything has to be cohesive. So unfortunately, so far this year, it hasn't been the case for the Sox, and that's where the inconsistency come in on both the hitting especially.
And speaking of Michael Kopech's start yesterday, I heard kind of our guy Jason Palmer talk about this on Sean and Maya's show earlier today. We saw this with Dylan Cease a couple years ago. We saw this with Ronaldo Lopez a few years ago. When they had that one bad inning, they let that carry over to the next inning before they settled down. I saw that with Michael Kopech yesterday after the Yankees scored those 3 runs off those 2 walks. They scored 5 runs off of two hits in total in yesterday's game, but that one bad inning, which was the deciding factor in the game, I thought it was all mental with Michael Kopech, especially after he walked that first batter Aaron Hicks off the 3-2 count. I said out loud on the TV, I said, it's all in Kopech's head. He has to get past it somehow. You saw that he didn't. He eventually did the following innings, but that third inning was just terrible yesterday. So do I blame Kopech solely for yesterday's loss? No, he's part of it, but it's more about the offense yesterday. I just wanted to point out that Kopech really struggled that third inning yesterday. He has the mechanics, but it was all mental for him at this point.
And I think that's going to be the thing if he kind of keep up with that consistency. But like I said, the only thing is that the hitting for the Sox have to kind of pick up the slack for
Mhm.
him whenever he does have a good start. And unfortunately, that just wasn't it yesterday. So we'll see what happens. I mean, like you said, I mean, luckily for the Sox, they are in the AL Central and no one's running away with it right now. So they do have time
Mhm.
to kind of get back into it, but they're gonna have to sort of put it in a run together because and be consistent. So that's the only thing. Now let's go to the north side with the Cubs. The Cubs win 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks, and they probably should have won. They probably maybe should have, swept, but because
Hmm.
they blew that lead on Friday's game that if you saw it on Apple TV Plus, unfortunately. But look, they got a solid outing. Frank Schwindel had the go ahead hit to take the series. The pitchers
Hmm.
actually stepped up pretty well. They actually kind of kept the Diamondbacks at bay for the most part on the
Cal
hitting
Hendricks
side.
too. He's
Yeah,
starting to show
Hendricks
some
was
consistency. Yeah,
yeah,
winning
Hendricks
his
was
last
really
two
good
starts.
Saturday. Yeah, he was really consistent on Saturday. So, I think if you're the Cubs, I feel like look, you did what you're supposed to. You win 2 out of 3 against a team that you're just a little bit better than, maybe by not much, but you're still a little bit better than, and you did just that. So if you're the Cubs, I think you got to feel pretty good about where you're at in that front.
We talked about this team, Lakeena, putting up runs in spurts, and they did that over the weekend against Arizona. I know they scored 3 runs on Friday, and they lost a mistake by them, cost them that game on Friday. But Saturday and Sunday's game, the long balls came out,
Hmm.
especially from Patrick Wisdom a couple of times, Rafael Ortega, and the Cubs can hit with the best of them when they get focused. Right now, they just don't have the names to have a monster lineup. I know Wilson Contreras, who's been swinging a hot stick lately, has had carried them over the last couple of weeks. But you're starting to see some of the young guys step up. But as you mentioned, when Frank Schwindel had in the game-winning RBI in the ninth inning yesterday, Patrick Wisdom. I know Nico Horner. That's going to be a huge loss
Yeah,
for the
he's gonna be
Cubs
in the
as he's
IL
going
for
on the IL because
the
he's
next
been
couple
one
of
of
weeks. Yep.
yeah, he's been one of the best surprises for this Cubs team this year. And let's not forget about the bullpen, Lakina. We talked about them at the beginning of the season. That was one of the few bright spots about the Northsiders. They stepped up again to help out the starting pitching over the weekend. Roman Wick closed the game out yesterday for the Chicago Cubs. Don't overlook that bullpen. I'm not getting ready to say that it's the best of baseball, but statistically, they've been pitching like it lately. So the Cubs, a successful road trip, taking 2 out of 3 at Arizona, 2 out of 3 at San Diego last week for a 4-2 record. I'm not saying they're going to go on a big run. I know they got the Pirates coming up this week, but and of course the Diamondbacks again at home for this upcoming weekend. But the Cubs, it looks like they finally started to turn around. Let's just see if they can keep up with that momentum.
Well, and also too, like you said, I mean, with their schedule coming up, I mean, you get the Pirates and the Diamondbacks. I know the Pirates, they split their series, their mini 2 game series the last time they played. The
Hmm.
Pirates are starting to kind of get sort of kind of falling back to earth a little bit. So you could probably win a couple of those. You should be able to at least win 2 out of 3 against Arizona too. You could go 4-2 in a road trip. I mean, especially if you're going 2 out of 3 against one of the best teams in the league. I think you got to be feeling pretty good if you're the Cubs. And look, baby step. That's all you can ask for at this point. But like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see if the Cubs take advantage of the fact that they have like a kind of a light part of their schedule coming up, especially at home. So hopefully they can kind of take advantage of that. And Horner, losing Horner for a couple of weeks, that's going to be for the offense, it's going to be
Hmm.
kind of a little bit of a dent. But they've got the guys that can kind of try to pick up the slack when they can. So we'll see what they can do this week. Now, what caught your attention in baseball this
Speaking of
weekend?
the Pittsburgh Pirates, they win the game 1-0, but they were no hit by the Cincinnati Reds. Go figure that out.
Well, only Cincy, right? I mean, of course,
Yeah,
this is sort of like rock bottom for them, and it's sort of I saw this yesterday, and I was like, yep, they were going around. I'm like, wait, huh? It's like rare
yeah.
that happens. It, I Jesus, I don't. I look, I'm just like at a loss for words right now. I mean, it I ooh gosh, no, I don't
You know, the
know.
first thing I thought about Lakina after I saw the highlights yesterday. Remember back in 1990 at Old Comiskey Park, it was the New York
Mhm.
Yankees versus the White Sox. Andy Andrew Hawkins pitched a no hitter
Yes.
for the New York Yankees. The Sox won that game, I believe, 4-0. They scored all 4 of their runs on errors, but baseball decided to change the statistics the following year that Andy Hawkins did not pitch a no hitter. I say, I said that was the first thing that crossed my mind yesterday.
If you're Hunter Green, you're saying you 5 walks. That's how they were able to get
Hmm.
that run, was because it was a
Yeah.
walk. It was a bases loaded walk. That's why how he gave up that earned run, and it was a no hitter. He didn't give up any hits, but unfortunately, the Reds, of course, they couldn't pick up the slack. So if
Hmm.
you're him, you're feeling really bad right now because you're like, wait, huh? What? Yeah. So it's just only Cincy, I guess, and you feel for all the Cincy fans. That's a historic franchise, and I don't know. Like I don't know if that's hitting rock bottom, but it's pretty bad if you have a no hitter and you lose. So,
Yeah.
go figure.
Yeah, shout
Um,
out to our guy Vernon Fairley. He says on
Verna.
Facebook, depressing Sox news. They lose yet again. Yeah, we mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, Vernon. But like we said before, they still have time to turn around. No, they're supposed to get some guys back in the next few weeks with Eloy Jimenez and hopefully Lance Lynn. So things should turn around. The schedule will start again in their favor too a little bit. So and there you go about yours. Depressing Sox news. Just in breaking news, I know Jason Palmer, our guy, you put it up there earlier. Like, for those that
Mhm.
missed it, Johnny Cueto, who has been in Charlotte the past couple of weeks, he will start tonight for the White Sox as they'll take on the Kansas City Royals. And Danny Mendick, the second baseman, has been optioned to AAA Charlotte.
Yeah, so we'll see what Cueto does. I know he's been pitching very well in Charlotte, so we'll see. Look, this is a
Hmm.
potential, low risk, high reward for the White Sox. You need somebody that can
Yeah.
eat up innings in the back part of that rotation. So we'll see if he can do just that. Now, shout out to Shohei Ohtani, who had another milestone. I mean, more milestones for him. His 100 home run over the weekend as a batter, and he now has that plus 250K as a pitcher, joining Babe Ruth, the only person to ever do that. He also is the only player born in Japan besides, Suzuki and Matsui to reach 100 home runs. So he hit that 100 home run over the weekend. So definitely making the case for MVP again. We'll see.
Yeah. The
But
Angels on fire already, sweeping Oakland in
yeah,
four straight.
yeah, Oakland. Oof, oof, no. We won't talk about Oakland, but there were like 5 people there, so we won't even talk about them. But yeah, look, I think the Angels are looking pretty good. Are they for real? They look like they are. Now we'll see what happens if they can keep it up. They got a pretty tough schedule coming up, so we'll see if they can keep it up.
Also, too, the Houston Astros, you mentioned the AL West race. They take 2 out of 3 in our nation's capital against the Washington Nationals. The Seattle Mariners taking 2 out of 3 against the New York Mets. I had the chance to watch some of that game live yesterday. Pete Alonso striking out with the bases loaded, not good. The Mets are
Ouch.
still
Yeah.
going to be there, but they had the opportunity to steal that game yesterday. Actually, had a lead for a brief moment.
Yeah, they did.
Francisco Lindor hit a monster home run yesterday. The Seattle kept fighting back, but the Mets failed to execute with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. So Seattle takes 2 out of 3 in New York City against the Mets. Also to the Braves, they lose 2 out of 3 to the San Diego Padres. They were the featured
Mm.
game yesterday on Peacock. Did you
Yes, they
get
were.
did you get a chance to catch any of that?
I did. I watched a little bit of that, and it was a wild game. It was tied, but they got extras, and they ended up, the Padres ended up winning in 11. Taking that series, and it's sort of one of those things where you're kind of. It was very strange. It was just weird things that happen. Usually happen in baseball. You got, Padres got some breaks here and
Mhm.
there. Houston Kim had a run scoring RBI. That kind of led that rally, and of course, the Padres would score a couple more after that, and it was. Look, the Braves had their chances. They really
Mhm.
did, and the Padres bullpen actually were able to slam the door, and that gave them the opening to take control and win the game.
The reason why I asked that because I had it on in the background. I was waiting for the White Sox to come on. Then I had to watch some other stuff from the previous day since I was at the Sox game on Saturday. But it was Jason Benet, who's the lead voice for the Sunday MLB leadoff on Peacock. This week he featured Mark Sweeney, analyst Mark
Mhm.
Sweeney, and former Braves young great Andrew Jones.
Andrew Jones. Yep.
And they had some interesting conversations. I didn't stick with the whole game, unfortunately, but I wondered. I assumed that this did not happen, but I wanted to. I was just curious to see if Jason Bernetti asked Andrew Jones the question about why Bobby Cox pulled him out. Remember that 1998 Kerry Wood versus
Mm.
Gray Maddox game? And
Mm.
Andrew Jones missed a couple of fly balls. He was loafing out in the outfield, and Bobby
From
Cox
what?
right in the middle of the game came and yanked him out. I
Well, yeah.
wonder if
From what
Jason
I
Benet asked him about that. My
Yeah.
assumption
From
was
what
no.
Yeah, he didn't. He really did because,
He
like I said, I
didn't?
was turning
Okay.
back and forth. Yeah, I was turning back and forth with some of the other stuff that was going on. So
Okay.
I didn't. Yeah, if he did, I don't think it's sort of. I don't know. I don't know if he did. I don't think he did. But like I said, it was sort of like I was turning
Mhm.
back and forth from going back and forth from there to some of the other stuff that was on. So I don't think he
Okay.
did. I'm sure it would have been trending on Twitter if he did. So maybe that's probably the case. But yeah, but look, a nice series win by the Padres. So we'll see what happens there. Also, too, I know we're going up against it, but St. Louis, beating the Giants to Sunday Night Baseball, also too, and we saw. Taking 2 out of 3 the Cardinals did. We saw a little bit of pitching from Mr. Albert Pujols.
I thought my eyes were deceiving me. I was like, Albert Pujols pitching, you guys are up by double digits.
Well, that's what you do during that situation. They were up 15-6, and look, Adam Wainwright had a solid show. It didn't really have to do too much because, of course, the Cardinals hitting kind of picked up the slack. But when Wainwright and Yadier Molina, start together, they've now won 203 games all time with those two when those two are in the lineup. That's the most team wins in MLB history by a starting batter and batting tandem. So and also, of course, you saw Pujols pitching for the first time in his 2,988th career game. This is his first time pitching. So go figure.
A couple of the series of note. Tampa Bay takes 2 out of 3 from Toronto. Minnesota takes 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians. And the LA Dodgers, thank you, Gavin Lux, they avoided being swept by the Philadelphia Phillies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Dodgers fans would have snapped if they did not at least take one of those games against the Phillies.
Yeah.
Look, give the Phillies credit. I mean, they were able to go. They came in and look, they were a little bit of a slump too. So winning 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles against the Dodgers can only help with their confidence. So we'll see if they can kind of start a run going. Go through some of the series real quick. The Yankees go to Baltimore. I'm sure they're going to want their revenge. That should be an interesting.
Yeah.
Seattle and Toronto battled the young teams. Toronto, I know they kind of had a little bit of a rough weekend as well. Hopefully they can kind of get things going there. Houston and Boston. I know Boston. I know they've been like, you don't know what to think about that. St. Louis and the Mets. That should be a fun one at 6:10 tonight. Atlanta and Milwaukee. That's the feature game on ESPN Plus. That's at 6:40. Of course, Pirates and the Cubs. They got the Angels and the Rangers. The White Sox, of course, and KC start their series tonight. Giants and Colorado. I know Colorado got the best in the last time they played. Minnesota and Oakland. I wonder what's over and how many people are going to be there in Oakland to watch the game.
Probably 7.
Maybe I'll be nice. I'll be nice and maybe like 12 or something. And the Dodgers will try to get back on track as they face Arizona. Of course, also Detroit and Tampa and Washington and Miami.
And don't forget the White Sox series at Kansas City. It's a 5-game series. The doubleheader tomorrow is a makeup game from the reschedule due to the lockout. And so this was supposed to be the White Sox first road series, but of course it got bumped back due to the situation with the lockout. Other series that are starting this week, which will pick up tomorrow. Cincinnati at Cleveland, the Battle of Ohio, and also too you have the San Diego Padres traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Phillies, and we have the Cardinals in the midst. I think you just mentioned that, and we have the Anaheim Angels going down to Texas to take on the Rangers. So that's your series preview, series schedule for MLB for this upcoming week.
Woo, fun series. Some of those series. So we'll see what happens with that. A lot of things are moving around the MLB. So we'll talk about it on Friday as well. Okay, so I know we're up against, so we got to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some NBA and NBA playoffs. 2 teams step up for Game 7. Also, too, all this about CP3. Now that's starting to kind of become the focus as well. Pat Bev has some interesting comments this morning. If you guys didn't check that out, he was with it to our ESPN. Also, too, concerns about Lonzo Ball's knee. Apparently, there are reports out there that the Bulls are a little concerned. Are we concerned as well? We'll tell you if we are. Sydney Brown, Lakeena McGee, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. NBA talk coming up right after this.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109, the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia Garcia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. If you have a question or comment for us during our less than 90 minutes left in this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's transition into NBA playoff basketball. We had 2 Game 7s that took place yesterday. We'll start off with the first game in the Eastern Conference. In the second round, the Boston Celtics will move on to play their opponent in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Miami Heat. The Celtics got past the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks yesterday by the score of 109-81. Grant Williams was the story for the Boston Celtics, hitting a franchise record for a Game 7 for three-pointers. He hit 7 out of 18 shots from beyond the arc to lead the team with 27 points. Jason Tatum chipped in with 23. Jaylen Brown had 19 also contributing as a starting guard. Marcus Smart, RIP Tom Heisen, had 11 points in 10 assists, and so he distributed the ball very well. And you got 14 points from Mr. Pritchard coming off the bench. On the flip side for Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo had 25 points. Brook Lopez had 15. Drew Holiday had 21. Bobby Portis had 10 points off the bench. But outside of that, Lakeena, the Bucks could not hit the side of a barn if you asked them to. They really struggled from three-point range, and that was a big difference yesterday.
Or on the flip side, Grant Williams, and you just mentioned it, Sid, I mean, he made 7 threes in Game 7, the third person to do that, joining Steph and Marcus Morris. And it was really sort of their shooting that kind of propelled them. And like Giannis, I know I've said that for the last couple of games, Giannis has not had a Giannis-like performance. Well, unfortunately, he didn't have a Giannis-like performance yesterday. 10 for 26 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. So it was he just really didn't have it. And it really didn't sort of like, unfortunately for a lot of those Bucks, role players, they picked the worst time to have their worst game of the season. Grayson Allen, I know our buddy Mac Peck's not a big fan of Mr. Grayson Allen, only had 1 point, Mr. Allen. I know he's going to go at it next time he and Dave are on, Big Dave are on CHGO. You guys can check that out too. Wesley Matthews only had 3 points as well, and that's not going to help you. Bobby Portis had 10 points. Look, he was the only one that was contributing. Brook Lopez, was hot early, but then, kind of fizzled out. So unfortunately for the Bucks, I think the fact that fatigue maybe might have had something to do with it. Also, too, I think maybe the sort of the kind of like the mentality of it. I think they were forcing a lot of those threes. And look, you're 4 for 33 from 3-point range, only a little over 12% in a Game 7. You're not going to win Game 7. Now, flip side for the Celtics, this is actually going to be their 37th Eastern Conference final. Think about that. 37th Eastern Conference final. That's about half of this. Look, the NBA are celebrating 75 years. The Celtics have appeared in half of the Eastern Conference finals. Just something to think about there on that front. 40% from three, the Celtics. They're speaking of, that's a franchise record, and that's the most all time in a game 7. So that's just amazing. Like you said, Grant Williams led the way. Tatum, he kicked in some big shots when he, and also too Jaylen Brown as well. Marcus Smart had 11, but also too made a couple of big steals, so that propelled him in the win. And Peyton Pritchard, now that's a name that I'm sure a lot of folks in college shoes know. If you're an Oregon fan, if you guys remember, he was all second team all Pac-12, and he kicked in with about 12 points. So he definitely helped them. It was a season high for him. 14 points, I should say. That's a season high for him. So he definitely helped out. So it was really Boston's role players that definitely had a lot to do with where Boston going back to another Eastern Conference final.
And this will be their 4th appearance in the Eastern Conference Finals within the last 6 years. So congratulations to them. But back to yesterday's game, if you look at the statistics, Milwaukee, outside the 3-point shooting, basically dominated the stats board. But the Boston Celtics played well as a team. Yesterday, you saw Grant Williams as an unsung hero. When you share the ball, when you play together, anything can happen. You saw that with Boston yesterday. Now, them winning Game 6 on the road on Friday, they came together, especially in that fourth quarter, to shut Giannis and his teammates down, and they carried that momentum over to what happened yesterday in front of their home fans. So, as we talked about before, Boston's a very good defensive team, and we'll get into the series preview against Miami in just a moment. But the Celtics really turned it around. Struggling for the first 2 months of the regular season, they turned it around ever since the month of January took place. And so, give the new coach Udoka. I remember him playing with the San Antonio Spurs some years ago. Give him credit for having the belief in his guys, and of course his team is sticking with his system, believing in his system, is finally paying off.
Yeah, and that definitely is starting to show. And I think they had their struggles earlier this year. I think they were starting to get used to the system and how the defensive style of play. Now they are starting to kind of getting that defensive, suffocating the Bucks. And I think that's what really propelled in those last couple of games. So also too, of course, hitting big shots. So I think that's definitely helped them in that front. Now it's going to be very interesting though if they can do that against a Miami team. Again, we'll get to that in a second, but they split their series. There were some times when the Celtics defense was really good, but there were other games in the series where the Heat defense was really good. So it's definitely going to be the sort of similar styles, but also to the fact that the different ways they approach both the defense and the offensive side. So also too, injuries could play a factor as well. I know Robert Williams tried to play a little bit. It didn't help. I know Kyle Lowry still struggling with that hamstring injury. They're not, no word yet. I hope he'll be able to play tomorrow, but they've had a little bit of a rest that he'd have. So we'll see if that kind of helps in that front and propels them there. Now going into that second game, we got a lot to say about this one.
You think?
Yeah. Oh God, I don't know what happened last night. I was looking forward to this game, and
Me too.
I would think that maybe the Suns thought they were going to flip the switch, and that maybe they would dominate the Mavs at home. Well, someone dominated somebody, all right, but it was the Mavs. Luka had 35 points, including 20. There was actually one point during the game, I think it was at halftime, where he had 27 points. That's about as much as the Suns scored in the first half. Really? Jalen Brunson came in with 24, and Spencer Dinwiddie. Now, look, I don't want to hear any Bulls fans say, look, that was 2 regimes ago, okay, folks? So I don't want to hear that in that front that you should still be a Bull.
What happens if you're a Brooklyn fan? You had him on your squad too.
Yeah, I'll say those are the people that should be upset, not the Bulls fans. The Nets fans should be more upset than the Bulls fans. He had 30 points off the bench, was a playoff career high for him. He kind of helped with Luka, and of course Brunson kicked in with 24 points as well. So it was really basically those three that kind of helped propel the Mavs to that stunning Game 7 win in Phoenix. I mean that's the most, of course. That scored, going to a half since Kobe and Shaq did it in 2002 conference finals against the Kings. You guys remember that that series, that was a pretty memorable series. Yeah, if you're a Kings fan, you're not, yeah, you don't want to hear that. If you're a Kings fan, you had it right there. Well, okay, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, we'll get into that a whole nother time.
Yeah, so that's a whole different episode. But again,
Yeah.
that's but yeah. So on the flip side though, for the Suns, I mean, Booker had 11. CP3, we'll get to him in a second. Just really nothing, nobody. Those were only 3 players, and also Cam Johnson off the bench. Those were only 3 players that were in double figures for the Suns. I have something to say about it, but I'm gonna let you go first, Sid. Go on.
One, Luka Doncic has raised his star status legend to another notch. You saw what he did yesterday, especially in that first half, hitting the heat check 3 and staring to celebrity role in that front of that hostile environment in that Suns crowd. So shout out to Luka Doncic. We know that he's a MVP candidate almost every year, at least for the last couple of years. He raised this legend throughout these playoffs. Lakeena, we said this on Friday. Do not have the best player on the opposing team in a game 7, no matter where it's played. He was the best player in this series against the Suns. You saw what he did, especially in that first half yesterday, and Dallas deserved to win. On the flip side for Phoenix, what did I tell you on Friday? DeAndre Ayton was the key for me for Phoenix. 5 points, 4 rebounds. That's not going to get it done. As Lakeena is doing her "Where Are You" search. Look, for those of you listening back on our replay on our podcast. Everybody can talk about Devin Booker, who's still suffering from that hamstring injury. Everybody can talk about CP3. It's just the beginning of the end for him. But DeAndre Ayton was the key to me. Lakeena, he didn't get it done yesterday. And some of the other role players like Cam Johnson, who tried to get it going, I know he had 12 points, but he couldn't get it going either. That first quarter really put this game away. And when was the last time the Phoenix Suns shot 24% and scored 27 points in a half?
It's been a while, and I was thinking that maybe, okay, they were going to flip the switch. You know, I kept waiting. We kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, waiting. It was just like, you know, it wasn't happening. And I think people were asking, is this the worst game 7 performance? You know, if someone gets blown out at home, I'm trying to remember like some of the other game 7s. I mean, I know that someone brought up the which one was it? It was like from the Lakers. Maybe the Blazers series with the Lakers. I remember.
Are you talking about the Lakers Phoenix series from 06? And yeah, because I know Kobe passed up some shots in that in that game 7.
No, it was another game beforehand. Someone had brought that up, but because someone actually said it like right there, and like I was like, that's one thing. I'll look that up in a second. But it's sort of like this is pretty bad. This is not one of those times where you pick the worst time to have your worst game of the season, the Suns. And if you're the Suns, you're kind of at a crossroads right now. Look, if you're Ayton, you know, they already don't have a contract extension. So is he going to sign for the max? Is there going to be like some spending going on? Or are they going to try to hold off on spending? Are they going to have to maybe pick up somebody to kind of like, you know, lighten the load from CP3 in case he does get banged up from time to time? It's one of those things where you're kind of like, I know people want to make jokes and say that they're a front runner. Look, James Jones, I mean, he has a couple of titles as a player. I know he's seen all of this. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of moves he makes during the off season. And I know, look, CP3 people are already saying, well, it's not going to happen. It's been happening the last couple of years. It's not going to happen now. But I mean, like, I don't know. Like, they probably need to go. Look, you brought Jay Crowder on to kind of, you know, sort of pick up the slack. He only had 5 points. Was 1 for 6 from 3-point range. That's not going to do it. So it's just like I honestly don't know what's going on here. But it's kind of one of those things where. I'm kind of flabbergasted by this performance by the Suns yesterday.
Now, I think that Dallas had a chance to win yesterday? Yes, but I didn't expect anything like this, Lakeena. So let's give credit to the Dallas Mavericks. They had hot shooting, especially in that first half, and we talked about it all season, Lakeena, especially around the trade deadline when they made a few minor adjustments in a couple of trades, getting rid of Kristaps Porzingis, shipping him off to the Washington Wizards. They got back Spencer Dinwiddie in another deal, and he's really been making a difference. But this Dallas Mavericks team is a very good defensive team with Kleber and Sean Powell anchoring in, coming off the bench. And we know Luka, you know, he's not a traditional point guard. he can still facilitate, and that's what he does as well as score and drive the ball to the basket. But the Dallas Mavericks are a very underrated defensive team, and they did show that the last half of this series against the Phoenix Suns. Now, the first half of this series, we talked about Dallas faltering under the pressure, especially in the games against Phoenix. But when they went back home, they made a few minor adjustments, especially on Devin Booker and CP3. That's how they got back in the series, along with their hot shooting in a couple of those games 3 and 4 back in their home court. But during this last series, CP3 and Devin Booker did not show up. Both of them did not shoot the ball very well, and Dallas took advantage of that, and that's why they're moving on to Western Conference Finals.
I want to clean up. It was actually the 2000 playoffs between the Lakers and the Blazers. Remember, the Blazers were actually up like 12 or 13 points on the road. If you remember that.
Oh, that was Game 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
they blew it.
remember.
Yeah, Scottie Pippen, Rasheed Wallace, and crew. Yep.
Yeah, and also the Lakers came back and were able to win that game and actually won by like 15 points or something like that. So that's what I was referring to in that game. So that game was actually pretty competitive. It's just that the Lakers kind of came back and trashed the Blazers. So that's what happens there. Now going into the other conference final, you got the Warriors and the Mavs. Now people are, the Mavs did beat the Warriors 3 out of 4, but remember though, they didn't have a full lineup. So I think people need to kind of sort of, slow down on the fact that I think like the first 2 times they played, Klay didn't play. And I think like the third time they played, I think Steph didn't play. I think like the last time they played, I think Draymond didn't play. So they didn't have a full lineup. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that that they're going to, Warriors going to blow them out. I know people are already saying Warriors in 5. I think you're kind of disrespecting the Mavs if you do that. So I will say I'll say Warriors in 7 just because, again, it depends on how much energy the Mavs have. So, because they really had to go through, spend a lot of energy trying to win the series against the Suns.
You're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Preview of the NBA's conference finals matchups right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Let's stick with the Western Conference, Lakeena. I agree with you. This series is going to be better than what people think. I think some people have the Golden State Warriors in mind from 2015 and or from 2018 when Kevin Durant was on the team. This is not the same team. As we mentioned, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, in particular, Klay Thompson didn't play the first couple of months of the regular season, so Dallas took advantage of those games there. But when Steph and Klay do not shoot the ball well, the Warriors lose. That's why you're seeing players like Jordan Poole step up. You're seeing players like Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins step up for the Warriors. Now, the Mavericks, they're not as physical as the Memphis Grizzlies are, but the Mavericks, as we talked about, they're still a very good defensive team, and the Warriors had their work cut out for them. It's not going to be a breeze, as you just said. I agree with you. I will pick the Warriors at 6, but it wouldn't surprise me if it goes 7. It really wouldn't. And I think the key for me in this series, the key player to watch out for the Warriors in the series, Andrew Wiggins for the Warriors and Jordan Poole. And then on the flip side for Dallas, for me, I will have to go with Spencer Dinwiddie.
Okay. Yeah. I think Dinwiddie's going to be the X factor there. Someone's going to have to help out Luka, and look, Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, hopefully he can step up as well. Jalen Brunson can keep doing what he's doing. I think if you got guys like Kyber and such, so hopefully those guys can step up as well and help out the Warriors. Because if Klay or Steph struggle, we'll get to Steph in a second. He had a really nice milestone over the weekend. If they can step up, and if the Wiggins and the Jordan Pooles of the world can step up and help out Klay and Draymond and Steph, especially either one of them, have off shooting nights. I think this could be the Mavs can make it very interesting. Now, will they win a series? Who knows? But I feel like this is definitely going to be the X factor here. Will be the role players.
Now, the question for me is Draymond Green, he's playing the 5 for the Warriors. Now, how many times will he match up on Luka? I know he's not going to guard Luka out on the perimeter, but we all know Luka can take advantage of the matchups that he has a height advantage over. So will Dallas have Luka post up some of the time, most of the time? That's going to be the question. Draymond Green wants a piece of Luka, speaking in loose terms. So Draymond Green is the emotional leader for the Warriors. He's the defensive anchor for that squad. And so I want to see how much does he match up against Luka Doncic.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough assignment for Draymond. But look, Draymond's been all defensive guy. So we'll see if maybe who's going to get that assignment? Are they going to rotate? Is Steve Kerr going to rotate his guys to Luka? Will it be Steph? Will it be Draymond? Will they kind of do a rotating thing? So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a tough task, but it's we've seen the teams do it. So that's going to be if you kind of lock down Luka, it's going to be tough for someone else to step up. So that's going to really be the key here. So it'll be a very interesting series. I think it's going to be a fun series. I think both these conference finals are going to be really a lot of fun, and it should be an interesting series, no doubt.
Yeah, so game one of the Western Conference Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks will take place on Wednesday from the Chase Center in San Francisco, California. That's at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. That will be seen on TNT. TNT is the exclusive home of the Western Conference Finals. Let's go to the Eastern Conference Finals, Lakeena, and preview that series between Boston and Miami. Miami has home court advantage for that series. Game one will be tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. Lakeena, what are your keys to this series for both teams?
Same thing. It's going to be the role players. I really feel like you've got both teams that can play defense. Both teams that they split their series. I think they've each won like 2 series against each other in their series. So it's definitely going to be a toss up. I think Tatum and Tyler Hero, you're going to have a little bit of a battle there. Jimmy Butler, of course. You got Kyle Lowry, of course. We'll see how that hamstring holds up. So Robert Williams, you got to wonder is he gonna still be a little bit banged up too to play? Marcus Smart, Max Strauss. I mean, look, there's so many guys on both ends that it's gonna be the role players. It's not gonna be the stars. I feel like it's gonna be the role players are gonna have to step up. And you saw in the Sixers series, look, Bam, had his struggles a little, somewhat, but Butler stepped up. You had, Vincent had his struggles. Max Strauss stepped up. I mean, there are so many guys. And Oladipo, will Oladipo be a factor here? So it's going to be one of those things where you kind of wonder, okay, how much of a factor is each of these teams are going to be? I mean, can Grant Williams, show what he showed in Game 7? Can he do it against the Heat? It's going to be a very tough task because both these teams can play defense. So it's really gonna, be kind of like right there for the taking. So I'm going to be interested to see who's going to step up, and I think that's going to be the key in this series.
I think for me, for Miami, is Jimmy Butler because he makes that engine go not only on the offensive end but on the defensive end as well. He's one of the best two-way players in the league, and he gets the offense going for the Miami Heat. And if he gets it going early, that's going to cause many problems for that Boston Celtics defense. And if Boston decides to double team Jimmy Butler, who's going to kick it out to? Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Those two guys I'm going to be focused on in this series for Miami. On the flip side for Boston, Marcus Smart. We all know he put the ball in the hoop, but he's a underrated version of Jimmy Butler as well. We all know about his defensive style, and that gets the Celtics going defensively. I just want to see how many times these two guys match up, Marcus Smart and Jimmy Butler. And that should be a very interesting and physical matchup.
Yeah, that's going to be the key too, I think, physicality. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see which teams sort of step up, especially in time, because I feel like the defense is going to be an issue. I think the who can shoot the ball better from the 3 especially will be an issue too. So both these series I think are going to go the distance, or 6 or 7. I don't think you're not going to get someone's not going to have a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. Both these series are going to be really good. If you're ESPN and TNT, you got to be feeling pretty good about the series. Both series should rate pretty well.
Yeah, I have Miami in 6.
I do too. I think the Heat is going to do just enough to win this series, I feel like.
Yep. So let's run down the schedule one more again, as you young folks would say. The Eastern Conference Finals will kick off tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN. Game 1 between Miami and Boston. Boston has the home court advantage for that one. Also tomorrow too, Lakeena, before the game, we'll have the NBA draft lottery, and who gets the number 1 pick. You guys can watch for yourselves. We won't discuss that here. For the Western Conference Finals, it'll kick off Wednesday, as we said earlier. Dallas at Golden State. Golden State has home court advantage for this series. Game 1 will take place Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on TNT. Let's go to Thursday. Thursday night, Game 2 between Celtics and Miami will take place at 7:30 on ESPN. So that's your schedule as the conference finals gets going, starting tomorrow night.
All right, go real quick. Apparently, if you hear Cap and Hoodie on every weekday 7 to 10 on ESPN Radio, ESPN Chicago. Apparently, I guess according to Cap, I guess there's some concern among the Bulls brass that Lonzo Ball's knee has not gotten better, and that there's some issues there, and they're like I said, the brass is concerned. Why hasn't it gotten better? Of course, he didn't play after he had injured it in March, so people are wondering, like, is there something going on with that knee? Are they going to clean it up again, or you have another scope? Bulls Twitter, of course, is already like losing it. So Sid, real
You don't
quick,
say.
right? I mean, oh God, I it's just like, okay, go ahead, Sid.
I know that Zach LaVine is looking for max money this year. I know he's supposed to have surgery, if not already, to clean out some debris in his knee. If Lonzo Ball has to have major knee surgery this summer, that's going to put the Bulls back. And you stuck with that contract for the next couple of years. You already got in trouble for acquiring him. You lost a second round pick for the strategy ways that you acquired Mr. Ball's services from the New Orleans Pelicans last summer. But if he has to have major surgery, that's going to put him out, I assume for at least the first 2, if not 3 months of next season. And the Bulls, we know they're right there as far as taking the next step to becoming a perennial playoff team and hopefully a championship contending team. We saw the difference with this Bulls team with Lonzo Ball, without Lonzo Ball. It at that start off at any point next year without him, it's going to be trouble.
Well, and also too, I mean, if this is the case, I think you better try and see if he can get surgery, and then perhaps maybe see if he can kind of, sort of be ready before the start of the season, or at the very least early on in the regular season, at the very least, if this is an issue. So again, I don't know if you want to put that much stock on it, but like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. But this is like the one thing where I was afraid of, and I told you this on our panel too, that the knee issue, and this has been an issue for the last couple of years for Lonzo. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. And some breaking news here about, I know we're really going up against it, but Marcus Smart suffered a mid-foot sprain in Game 7. This is according to Coach Udoka, and is questionable for Game 1 against the Heat. So
they really changes their game plan, especially against Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, we'll see if that's the case. We'll see what happens, but definitely something to look out for as they start their series tomorrow, the Celtics and the Heat. Now, hour number 1 is in the books. Hour number 2 is coming up. We've got some pretty interesting things, of course, the NHL playoffs, some great Game 7s last night, and a couple of nights, a great last couple of days for the NHL. Also, too, some NFL, and also some sports media news. So I'm sure Sid's got some sports media news for this weekend, of course, including Drew Brees. What does his future hold? Sydney Brown, Lakeena McGee, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, coming up for hour 2. Don't go away.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight, 126-109, the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut-rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel, Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports Live and in living color on the Monday edition on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKIDA0, SIDKIDA0.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk radio show. You have a question or comment for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Let's do that hockey, Lakeena, as we kick off hour number 2 of the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We had 5 Game 7s over the weekend, including 2 last night. We'll get to last night's results in just a moment, but let's go over Saturday's results. The first game in the Eastern Conference first round, the Carolina Hurricanes will move on to round 2 after defeating the Boston Bruins 3-2 in Game 7 at home. This was a very physical series. Lakeena, congratulations to former Blackhawk goalie and the Stanley Cup champion from the 2015 team, Antti Ranta. Yeah, he's the starting goalie for the Carolina Hurricanes. He really held the fort down in Game 7. Boston, they just didn't have enough. It looks like Brad Marchand's career may be coming to an end. We'll see in the weeks and days and months ahead. But Lakeena, this was a very physical series. Carolina was the overall better team from top to bottom, and it showed in Game 7.
Yeah, and I think, look, I've been pushing Carolina all season, and yeah, they finally kind of woke up, and it's definitely going to be funny, but yeah, it's like but like I said, I mean, they stepped up, finally, and I think they showed that they are were the better team, and the Bruins, to their credit, I mean, they tried, they pushed it to 7 when I like a lot of people didn't think they would. But unfortunately, I think the talent kind of got to them in the end. And look, we'll see if this is going to be Brad Marchand's final showing. I mean, there have been rumors that we'll take talk about another Eastern Conference team in a second, but there are some rumblings that they might break that core up in Boston. So it'll be interesting to see how far that goes. But look, I think the Hurricanes finally made me look good, Carolina. Yay! So look, Max Domi, I think, was a player of the game, and he's like I said, he's one of those standouts. So look, and we'll see what happens. We'll talk about their next series in a second because it's going to be a very interesting one too. But
I remember his daddy playing. That's all.
Oh God, hi. I'm about to say, make you feel old now. Another dish will make you feel old, right? We remember seeing his dad play. He did that a couple of times in the playoffs too. But yeah, he looked really good, and so did he kind of carried the Hurricanes to that win against Boston. So definitely a good win for them. The second Eastern Conference first rounder, you got Tampa and Toronto, the two-time defending champs. Showed you why they are the two-time defending champs. 2-1. I know. So it was a big. I know. I feel the same way about Toronto. I think this.
Where were you, Austin Matthews? Good God.
I know, right? Oh God. I mean, it's crazy. Nicholas Paul had 2 goals, to kind of propel them. And Tampa. Tampa showed you why they're the two-time defending champions. They did,
yeah.
And. Like I said, Toronto, I don't know what happened to a lot of their guys. Like I said, Austin Matthews, you were like one of the top scorers of the regular season. Where were you in Game 7? What happened? And I think this is what how long has it been? Sid, like 20 years or something like that? Maybe even something like that. Since the Maple Leafs have won a first rounder, so just brutal. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, Vasilevsky had 30 saves, so he definitely was the guy that helped out the Lightning there too. So just a terrible showing by the Maple Leafs. They've now lost 10 straight opportunities to clinch a series, dating back to Game 7 of 2004 in the quarterfinals. All of the Jets and the Coyotes, then Winnipeg Jets and now the Phoenix Coyotes, of course, have lost more at 13. So not a good history for the Maple Leafs. And if you're the Maple Leafs, you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, you gotta be like, what can they do? I don't know.
Yeah, you just stole the what I was getting ready to ask. What can you do at this point? Austin Matthews, one of the best young players in the National Hockey League. He's going to stick with it for now. But what can you do if you're the Maple Leafs front office? You had your chance to put it away on the road in Game 6, or you failed there. So as you mentioned, Lakeena, experienced teams know what to do in crucial situations. Toronto, you hope this is a learning process, but how much patience do you have as a fan base to go deep in the playoffs?
Like I said, it's been a long time, so I don't know. I
Yeah.
think they're running out of patience. So, but again, we'll see. They got interesting series 2 coming up this week as well. I'm talking about the Lightning. So that'll be an interesting one. Now going out west for the last game, the Game 7s from Saturday. The Edmonton Oilers beat the Los Angeles Kings 2-0. Connor McDavid finally gets to go past the first round of the playoffs. Yay.
Yeah, for the first time in like 3 years.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, Jesus. But yeah, he had a couple of goals kind of propelled into that win. Cody Ceci had that, had the goal. McDavid, kicked in, the game, sort of the game that had a help put away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sort of like, I think the Oilers kind of finally woke up, because I know people thought that this was going to be another sweep for them, being the Kings, because the Kings are so young, but they finally woke up. Finally, I tweeted out, they finally woke up. So even though Jonathan Quick had 39 saves, but Mike still had 29, they just, the Kings just couldn't get it going on offense.
Yeah, and that was the ultimate Achilles heel for the LA Kings. We said this last week, Lakeena. The LA Kings are a very good but young team. They have a young core, especially defensively, and you saw it show up in Game 7. Even though they did play a very good game, and Jonathan Quick stole one of the games early in the series.
Mm-hmm.
But Edmonton, I got the feeling that they took the Kings lightly. I had Edmonton in 5 games, and the LA Kings said, we're sticking around. They stole games 1 and 5 in Edmonton, and that really woke up the Oilers. They're going to have another tough matchup in the next round. We'll get to it in a few minutes. But my feeling was that the Edmonton Oilers took the Kings lightly, especially with young teams like the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And with this group going into the Stanley Cup playoffs, don't give teams like that any confidence, because anything can happen. And the upset almost happened, but the Oilers finally woke up and said, hey, we're the better team, and they showed it on Saturday.
Yeah, I guess they figured enough of this foolishness. So let's get kicked into gear. Of course, McDavid became the 4th Oilers player to record at least 10 assists in the playoff series. I think he had 11, joining guys like Wayne Gretzky, Paul Coffey, and Mark Messier. So that's a pretty impressive list he joins there. So so finally, the Oilers, they got a really interesting series coming up too. We'll get to that. And I know people are going to be looking forward to this one, and certain countries are going to be looking forward to that one. Now, there were 2 Game 7s on Sunday. Of course, listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sydney Brown, Lakeena McGee with you. Talking some hockey.
Doing that hockey.
Doing that hockey. Yesterday's Game 7, there were a couple there. The Rangers came back to win not only their series, but also to win their Game 7 against the Penguins 4-3 in overtime. It was the bread man, Teddy Panarin, had that game-winning goal in overtime. I wish he was still a Blackhawk. I'm still pissed about that.
Thank you, Stan Bowman.
I know. Boo. But he's doing great things over there in New York, and he kind of propelled them to that as well. And that was a really great series. I know a lot of people didn't think it would go 7, but it did. The Penguins showed a little bit of the fight. I know Crosby was a little bit banged up. He did play yesterday. Really wasn't too much of a factor. There are some rumors that maybe they might break up that tandem there in Pittsburgh with him and Chris Letang. So yeah, that's another thing. But look, the Rangers, I mean, they came back, I think, not once, but twice, but 3 times.
Yes. Pittsburgh jumped out to an early lead, and the Rangers stayed with it. They took advantage of a couple late turnovers by the Penguins, especially the one to tie the game. And of course, in overtime, when the Rangers were on the power play, there was a great shot by Artemi Panarin to send the Rangers to the second round. So the Rangers stuck with it, and they deserve to win that series. And now the Crosby injury that knocked them out of Game 6, that was one of the reasons why the Pittsburgh Penguins are sitting home today. And number 2, their goalie situation. I know Rodriguez was sitting on the bench last night. He did not get the start, but Pittsburgh's going to have to address the goalie situation moving forward. The Rangers can have that goalie there. They're making Henry Lundqvist look like a forgotten man. I know he's doing TV work for MSG up there in New York City for the playoffs, but the Rangers, they showed all year long why they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference and not in the league. And they had the grit, they had the fight, and they took advantage of the balance that went their way last night.
Yeah, Igor Shesterkin, 42 saves.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, I know, right? That's definitely a tongue twister. 36 saves. He had at least like 30 like throughout the series. They were 8-1 in a game. They're now 8-1, I should say. The Rangers are in a game 7, and it's definitely they're actually also the first team to record 3 consecutive comeback wins in elimination games in the same series. So, that's a pretty big testament to them and that team. And they looked really good. And like you said, Sid, I mean, the Penguins, I mean, they're kind of at a crossroads right now. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but Crosby's showing his age, and it's definitely like I wouldn't be surprised if they make some changes during the off season, but that's a whole nother conversation. We'll get to that in due time. Now, the last game and the nightcap of that other game 7, you got Calgary beating Dallas 3-2 in overtime. Johnny Hockey, as they call him up there in Calgary, Johnny Gaudreau slipped one past Jake Edinger, who had 60 saves. 60 saves.
Yeah, he had a great performance for Dallas.
Had a great series for Dallas, and unfortunately, got Johnny Gaudreau able to get that puck by him, and they ended up winning that series, the Flames. And I mean, speaking of a team that being at a crossroads, going up with the theme here, Dallas Dallas, this is their young team, so they got a good future ahead of them. Now, Calgary was one of the top seeds in the Western Conference, and they were able to eke one out against Dallas. So now they're going to the second round.
Yeah, the Flames got great goaltending as well throughout this series. And you mentioned Johnny Hockey. It was finally nice to see and hear his name show up on the score sheet as he puts his name into playoff overtime hero lore. And so Calgary stuck with it. Dallas, they had their chances, especially early in that overtime. But you could play a great game, especially in the game 7. And if you have that one mistake that comes back to bite you in the butt, that's what usually happens. And that's what happened to the Dallas Stars last night. Calgary, they had the home ice advantage, and they took advantage of Johnny Gaudreau's lucky shot from that left slot there, but he was able to connect and slip past the net. So congratulations to Calgary. I'm really looking forward to their matchup in round 2, which we'll get to in a sec here.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be. They should have. I'm sure. I know a lot. Excuse me. I know a lot of folks in Canada. Battle of Alberta. We'll get to that in a second. Now let's go to these conference semifinal matchups that will start tomorrow. These games will start tomorrow on TNT. A doubleheader here. You got Tampa, the Battle of Florida. In this one, you got Tampa and Florida. I think Florida just this is like the first time since like '96. Which I think their second year in existence, going this forward to the semifinals, because they had not won a playoff series since then. So that it's going to be very interesting because you got the young team that's been consistent all year in the East, but yet you have a 2-time Stanley Cup champion who when the chips are down, they're coming up, and I kind of feel like you wonder, will it be experience? Will it be kind of the youth of the Panthers? What do you think will win out?
I think it's going to come down to goaltending. Andre Velasquez, as you mentioned, Lakeena, he did what he had to do in that Game 7 against Toronto last Saturday. On the flip side, Sergei Grabowski for the Florida Panthers, he's been in the Stanley Cup playoffs before, young in his career with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's been that rock for the Florida Panthers and that for the last couple of years. And now we get to see what he's made up against a better Tampa Bay team. Florida has given Tampa Bay problems throughout this regular season. So Florida has a better roster in terms of scoring lines 1 through 3. But Tampa can score as well. I don't think we're going to see it as high of a scoring trade-off as we think we were going to see. I think it's going to be a very tight defensive matchup. But it's going to come down to the goalies, in my opinion. Sergei Grabowski for Florida is going to have to still 1, perhaps 2 games in this series if Florida if Florida wants to upset the Lightning.
Yeah, I think look, you got experience with Steven Stamkos, but then you got Jonathan Huboudreau, who could definitely is one like the top players in the league. So
Very
in that
good for the
team,
Panthers, yes.
very good. So he's definitely gonna be an X factor. Also, Barkov, on the center side, I think that's gonna be kind of another thing as well. So, like you said, who's gonna step up? I mean, I know Hedman is a good defenseman. They're probably
Victor Hedman, yep.
Yeah, and who knows? Look, I think, like you said, I think it could be down to the goalies, like you said, but I mean, I remember a couple of those matchups, and the Panthers kind of handled them pretty well. So again, these are the playoffs, so Nick Paul, he had a couple of big goals in that game 7 too. So it's going to be very interesting, like you said. I mean, I feel like this is definitely going to be one of those things where it could come down to it could come down to goalie, so we'll see. And I kind of feel like this is definitely going to be like one of those big matchups. And the Lightning are pretty healthy, so could that be a factor too?
And
be a great series.
Yeah, could fatigue play a factor in these first 2 games of the series in Florida? Even though they have home ice, even though Florida has home ice, will fatigue play a factor, especially in these first couple of games of the series? Florida must protect home ice. In my opinion, I think this is going to be a split with these first 2 games. So if you're Florida, if you go down 0-2 to this team, you're really playing with fire, and they cannot afford to do that, especially with this young bunch.
Yeah, so we'll see. Will it be youth or will it be the experience? Definitely something to look out for here. The second rounder in the Western Conference Finals. That's also starts tomorrow on TNT at 8:30. The nightcap. We got St. Louis and Colorado, and I kind of feel like this is another one of those series where it could come down to like the goaltending. I know St. Louis is sort of one of those teams where you kind of wonder, like, okay, interesting. But then you have Colorado. Colorado's been one of the dominant teams all year, and look, it's really going to be kind of like, okay, what's going to be the number one factor here?
I think it's going to be physical play in this series. We know St. Louis, they started off the year kind of shaky, but they picked it up. And like you mentioned, they ended up with one of the best records in the Western Conference with 109 regular season points, 10 behind Colorado. But I think St. Louis's problem was going to be goaltending, because you look on the flip side for Colorado, they have all those great goal scorers led by Nathan McKinnon. And so we know that the Avalanche can put it in the back of the net. But I think for St. Louis, the problem is going to be goaltending. But I'm looking forward to watching Vladimir Tarasenko as well. I know some people wanted to get rid of him over the summer, early into the season, but he's really picked it up as of late as well. They really had very little trouble against the Wild. I thought the Wild was going to upset them. Obviously, that didn't happen, but it's going to be a very interesting series. I think this series will go the limit. And for Colorado, this is your best shot at a Stanley Cup. You got to go through. You had an easier time in the previous round. Now this is really going to show what you're made of against as a divisional foe with the Blues, even though they do have on home ice. I'm referring to Colorado.
Yeah, I think Colorado. If you're Colorado, I think you better try to take advantage of this, because I think you are a much better team than the Blues. So hopefully they can kind of take advantage of that. And if you're Colorado, this is the time. You've been close a couple of times the last few years, and look, this is your shot. And Mikko Rantanen, I think he's gonna have to step up. Kadri's got to step up too for the Avs. So there's definitely, and they're healthy too, which is definitely, I guess, the most important thing going to the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think if you're the Avs, I think this is where your time to strike is now, and hopefully they can do that against the Blues. But again, like you said, it's going to be very interesting, and I think they got the goaltending edge too. So again, hopefully they can take advantage and pounce on the Blues and pounce early and often.
If you're a Blackhawks fan, Lakeena, who are you rooting for, Colorado or St. Louis?
Colorado, I think, because especially distance-wise, you don't got to worry about St. Louis too much. And St. Louis finally got their cup a couple of years ago, so it's not like, okay. And it's been a while for Colorado, so of course you cheer for the furthest team in your division. So definitely Colorado. I think most Hawks fans are going to be cheering for them.
Just asking a friend.
All right. New York and Carolina. These games will start on Wednesday. These are going to be on TNT. The
ESPN.
Rangers. Oh, ESPN. Sorry. We got the Rangers and Carolina. Couple of solid, players on both sides. I think it's really going to be sort of like the factor is going to be the goaltending. you gotta think that the goaltending, it's gonna be very interesting to see what sort of this whole thing with both the Rangers and the Hurricanes. Of course, you got Panarin, you got Kreiber, you got Aho. It's kind of like leading the way there for the Hurricanes. If you can kind of stabilize him, can kind of force the other guys to step up too for Carolina. So yeah, I think this is definitely going to be like one of those toss-up series. I feel like.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough series no matter which way you look at it. But I think it's going to come down to special teams, in my opinion. We all know that what Carolina did at home against Boston on the power play, they were tremendous. Their penalty kill was garbage on the road at Boston. So who's going to play the most disciplined hockey? Carolina could do that at times. Other times, they lose themselves at times. But for the Rangers, they do have more of a complete balanced roster. And so this is going to be a great test for the Rangers. In my opinion, it's going to come down to the special teams, especially the power play.
Yeah, I mean, look, Carolina, both teams actually can be really good in the power play. So if you're one of those, if you're Carolina, I think you try to maybe take advantage of the home ice that you have. Now it's going to be very interesting though, because if you have both, like I said, both teams actually have their stars. I think. Look, we know about Max Domi, we know about Antti Ranta, Teravainen. Oh gosh, I
Who
mean, I
still
guess
should be in Chicago.
yeah,
Thank you,
although
Stan
that's
Bowman.
another. Yeah, I'll say that's a whole other issue there. Look, we got players on both sides that should still be Blackhawks, but that's a whole nother thing as well. So yeah, Rata, it's just this is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be very interesting. He should be playing goalie for the Hawks right now, but that's a whole nother thing there. It's gonna be a great goalie matchup between Rata and Shesterkin. So it's gonna be that's gonna be the key here. I think. I feel like that's gonna be the key. Is gonna be the goaltending. Which goaltender can stand on his head and kind of sort of like force the other team to kind of like sort of put the pressure on them. So that's gonna be the key for me.
I think this is going to be a long series as well. Both teams ended up winning game sevens at home over the weekend. And so I think fatigue is going to play a factor in these first two, perhaps three games of the series. But once your opponent figures you out, it's go time. Who can make the adjustments? And I think this was going to be the underlying factor going on in this series.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And this last series we're going to be talking about too as we go up against it. But this should be a fun one. Leah Hextall annoyed this, the Battle of Alberta. And that's probably what it is. You got Edmonton.
This is
and
so
Calgary.
true.
Yeah, which is like Edmonton and Calgary. I think this is like the second time they faced each other in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. I heard somewhere, but this is gonna be a fun series. This is probably gonna be the series. So if you're ESPN, you've got a good one scoring this first game. Okay, we know about Connor McDavid, Johnny Gaudreau, Matt Kachuk, Leo Draisaitl, blah blah blah. But I think for me, I think it's definitely going to be the goaltending.
Who's going to steal one? Whoever steals one is going to win this series. Because I expect to track me. I hope as a fan we get that. We're going to get a scoring track me because both teams have electric scores. I know the Oilers have more of the famous names as you mentioned, McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Leon Draisaitl. But Calgary can skate with them too. So I hope we get a track meet, and I hope this is a long series. But whichever goalie steals one game in this series, I believe their team is going to win this series.
That's going to be where the advantage is. I feel like it's going to be who does sort of like sneak in there, and this could be one of those series where it could go 7. It's going to come down to who I guess Calgary's got the home ice. Can Edmonton steal game 7 on the road? But it could end up being that maybe could Calgary still in series a game in Edmonton, I should say. So it's definitely one of those. This is definitely one of those toss-up series, and I feel like again it's gonna come down to who could take advantage of the little mistakes. It's gonna be the tiniest mistakes. That's gonna be the key that sort of propels in this series. And if you're either team, you really can't afford, especially since all of Alberta, all the Canadian province of Alberta is gonna be keeping an eye on this series. I'm wondering though, someone needs to step up, and can they kind of take care of like the little mistakes? Can they clean up sort of those little details that is really gonna help whoever wins this Battle of Alberta?
And here's one factor that people are not paying attention to: they don't have to travel across borders to the United States.
No, they don't.
Just travel across provinces.
I do like a couple of hours, and you'll be right there. I know they're like about 2.5, 3 hours ahead of each other. So they don't have to travel far. That's probably the only good if you're both teams, that's a good thing. You don't have to worry about, having to travel very far or go across country or go across state lines. So you could just go in a couple of hours. It's about 2.5 hour trek between Edmonton and Calgary. So you'll just go on a bus and just go about your business, or get there in like an hour by plane. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see who can take advantage of that sort of. It'll be interesting to see like the road fans travel. So that's going to be the key too. You're going to be hearing like maybe a more neutral crowd. Mike Smith and Jacob Markstrom. That's going to be the battle of the goalies, who can kind of take care of the little bit details in the puck. That's going to be the key.
Mike Smith better step up for Edmonton, or else they have no shot.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be curtains for them. If he doesn't step up.
All right, before we break, Lakeena, what's your predictions for the second round matchups? Who you have as your winners?
Oh boy, like I said, I've been a Calgary person all like playoffs and all season, so I will say Calgary is 7 with that Battle of Alberta. They said like someone's going to steal a road game. I don't know which one, but I think someone's going to steal a game on the road. I have Rangers in 6. I don't know why, but I think I have this feeling that it's been a while since the Rangers have gotten this far in the playoffs. So I'm wondering, will they kind of feed off that? Now, as far as the series, I'll say Tampa until someone proves me otherwise. So if you can prove to me that you can, step up, I'll say Tampa in 7, and I'll say the Avs in 6. I think St. Louis is too good of a solid like young team to kind of be swept. So I'm gonna say So I'm gonna say Colorado in 6 in that one. What about you?
As usual, you steal all my picks, but you broadcast yours first. But I think Florida, it wouldn't shock me if they did upset Tampa. I think people are underestimating Florida, but they're going to give Tampa all they can handle. We told you what they did to each other during the regular season. Mm-hmm. So this playoff series should be no different. So Tampa, I do have them in 7. Colorado should get past St. Louis with no problem. It should be in 5, but I think it will be 6. Like I said, the Rangers is going to be tougher than what people think, but they will get by Carolina, of course. Hopefully, Flames, the Oilers will go 7 games. I will pick the Flames in 6, but I wouldn't be surprised if the series went 7.
Yeah, should be all 4 of these series. They will go. There won't be these sweeps. I'll say that. So,
no.
So it's gonna be interesting. I think all these games will be on both Turner and TNT and ESPN. So make sure you guys check out the schedule here. We told you about ESPN. Turner, I should say, had the games. Lightning and Panthers and Blues and Avs. Also, ESPN on Wednesday have the Rangers and Carolina, as well as Edmonton and Calgary. They get the first game of that, and these are all going to be on the respective network. The way it's sort of sorted out with the TV deal. So both these series are going to be on all on the 2 networks. So just check out the listings for the particular times.
And then for those of you that happen to be watching us in Canada, you can watch them on Rogers Sportsnet and CB/CBC. Lakeena, we're not quite done yet. We had to cool off a little bit, but we're gonna come back and we're gonna finish up the home stretch of Second City Sports, the Monday edition on Sports Live and Live in Color Sports Zone Chicago. We had to talk about Drew Brees. We had to talk about someone officially getting hired at Fox. It's not who you think it is. And we have some other stuff as well. And we're going to pay tribute to a Saturday morning TV show. No, it's not what you think I'm going to pay tribute to. Stay tuned for that and a whole lot more. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. If you have a question or comment for us during any of our topics during today's show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. This is we're going to combine two segments into one, since we have less than a half hour left in this program for today, Lakeena. This is our NFL/sports media news segment. The NFL, as we said before, Lakeena, they're a 12-month sport, and this is over the weekend. The National Football League, aka the Shield, did not disappoint. The NFL on Fox has officially hired former NFL head coach Sean Payton as an NFL analyst. According to Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, Payton is heading to Fox for the 2022 NFL season, where he'll work as a studio analyst, joining the regular Fox NFL Sunday crew on off days for Jimmy Johnson. Payton and Fox were reportedly nearing a deal in recent weeks, but now both sides appear to have reached an agreement after Payton made the surprising decision to resign from the New Orleans Saints earlier this year. The former head coach acknowledged that he would like to try TV during his final press conference with the team. The interest was mutual, with Payton having multiple media suitors this offseason, led by Fox and Amazon. Early on, there were reports that Fox might target Payton to fill the void created by Troy Aikman, who left the network to go to ESPN to join Joe Buck on Monday Night Football. Fox instead chose Tom Brady as a long-term replacement for Aikman and have yet to name a seat filler until the 44-year-old quarterback decides to hang them up. Payton might be a better fit in the studio, considering many people anticipate his media foray may last only 1 year, with the belief that the 58-year-old will still return to coach for the 2023 season. Michael McCarthy of Front Office Sports already reported that the Carolina Panthers were already eyeing Payton in 2023. Although eyeing is a rather vague term, there will be no shortage of suitors if and when Payton decides that he wants to coach again. If Payton does return to the sideline in the next year or two, Fox will have a much easier time filling this studio role rather than having to name a new lead broadcast analyst. Then again, after seeing the $375 million paycheck that Brady is getting from Fox, along with tens of millions of dollars, NFL analysts and Payton might decide broadcast has a more of an upside than coaching, assuming that he's any good.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think this has kind of been in the works for some time now. Of course, we know that Payton stepped aside from the Saints head coach and sort of, we knew that he was going to be going to television. But as you say, if you're the Fox and you're still trying to say, although all sides are pointing to Greg Olsen being kind of like the quote unquote, seat filler until Tom Brady retires. It's going to be interesting though to see if this is something that, Coach Payton is going to want to do long term. I mean, he could miss it for maybe a couple of years, and maybe he likes it. Maybe he likes, he just got married and maybe he just wants to sort of just chill for a little bit, but he's only 58 years old. And you wonder if he does get that itch. And if you're Fox, you're looking for your pregame show. Look, you love guys like Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, and Jimmy Johnson. They're all getting up there in age. Yeah. And I think Coach Johnson's like almost like 80 now, almost. So yeah. So I think that's probably what they're thinking about the future here. And I think if you're if you want to try and maybe perhaps try the studio first, and maybe at some point Coach Payton does maybe do some games, but you also have to remember too, him being only 58, he's probably going to want to do the coaching again, especially if the right situation comes up. So look, he'll be great at it. We've seen him do it, through the last few years. We know he's going to be good at it. But again, is he gonna want to do it long term? No, that's sort of like the wild card question.
It depends on which teams fire their head coaches. Of course, we know Dallas is always in the mix. Washington could be in the mix if they don't have a good season now. Their first year as the Commanders. There's a couple other places that Sean Payton can lend his services as well. So we'll see what happens for this 1 year. Like you say, he could decide if he's any good at it, that he could say, no, I'm done with coaching, but we're a long ways away from that.
And he's still young too. I mean, he's still young enough to probably maybe go back to coaching if he wants to. So it is, yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. Like that's gonna be sort of like the number one thing. Can he be kind of like that guy? And he could kind of be the face of that network. And they made the announcement on their upfronts on Fox, their upfronts today, and this is sort of like one of the big news that came out of the upfronts for Fox. It's gonna be interesting to see what he does. I mean, I kind of feel like. It's like I said, it's gonna get interesting though. I think as the season goes, especially if teams underachieve, like you said, if the Cowboys stink, if some of the other teams stink, there's gonna be situations where he's probably gonna think, I could probably go back into coaching. But like you said, if he likes doing it and it's less stress,
exactly. And like you said, money
out.
talks. You know what runs the marathon? So
unless he has like full control of how he does his roster, I don't know, but. We'll see what happens. Another news that came out over the weekend is soon-to-be Hall of Famer Drew Brees. I can safely say he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame first ballot. Now, there was a report that came out for Andrew Marchand that he is out at NBC, but after only a year. But Drew Brees came out on his social media, both his Twitter and his Instagram, saying that it's that's not true, and he has not really decided whether or not he's going to do it. He said that, he might work at NBC or he might play football again. He may focus on his business. He may coach he may trade for the pickleball tour. I don't know where that came from, but okay. The senior golf tour, he is an avid golfer. Coaches, I know his two oldest sons play football, so he might coach them. All the above, who knows? Wait, it was the second say the football thing that really kind of threw people off, because with all this stuff that the news, of course, Tyrann Mathieu going back home, signing with New Orleans, Jarvis Landry also signing a deal with New Orleans. I guess that's probably why he's thinking, could he want to come back? I guess that's kind of why where all this all the speculation started coming out. But I don't think he knows what he wants to do. I'm a little surprised that he got look, Chris Collinsworth was staying put over doing Sunday Night Football. A lot of people thought that was going to be his gig. Thought he was leaving with Al Michaels to go on Amazon. Collinsworth actually ended up signing another deal with NBC. He actually ended up re-signing with them. So now he's going to be doing Sunday Night Football for the next couple of years at least. I don't know what's going on here, Sid. Maybe you can tell me.
I think that Drew Brees is trying to keep his name in the news to get people talking, and that's what's happening right now. But as far as the football side of it is concerned, I think the Saints knew that they were done with him following the 2020 season. And actually, Dan Orlovsky and Louis Riddick both brought up great points on Sports Center earlier today. We saw the noon Eastern edition of Sports Center. Both of them talked about, remember Drew Brees, the last couple of years, the Saints had a dink and dunk offense. We know now former ex-head coach Sean Payton likes to be aggressive, take chances down the field. Remember, Drew Brees could not throw the ball downfield. That's why Taysom Hill came in a few times during some of those games the last couple of years. And so even though Drew Brees would like to play with this roster, the Saints had their chances during the last few years of Drew Brees' career to get to the Super Bowl. They just couldn't get over that hump. Now, will the roster look better on paper? Of course it would, but I think the Saints was like, we're moving on to Jameis Winston. Winston started off decent last year before he tore his ACL. And so we're like, if we're going to try this again, we'll try with Jameis Winston.
And I think that's going to be the thing here. And I think he I think he realizes that. I think he's pretty smart. I think he knows that. Look, he doesn't have sort of the wherewithal anymore to kind of pull to do these type of things. So, like you said, we don't know what the type of offense that Dennis Allen's going to run. Even he said that he doesn't believe it either. He kind of feels like, oh, he's just spewing a lot of hubris and stuff like that. So, I don't. He doesn't think there's any truth to it either. So that would be a big problem for him if that turns out to be that he wants to come back in the NFL. I guess he saw what Brady's doing, but I think it's going to be interesting though. Look, I didn't think he was that bad. I know some people kind of thought that he wasn't that good. I thought he was okay. I think with reps and with time, I think he probably could have gotten better. It'll be interesting to see if Fox does that. That was the rumor. Will Fox pick him up and perhaps maybe put him in a number 3 or 2 or 3 team, especially if Greg Olsen ends up doing it for this season, for the next couple of seasons, or whenever Brady retires. But this is going to be interesting though too. You still got a lot of stuff to figure out on the Fox side as well. So who's going to, like you said, you got somebody there for the future, but you need somebody there to kind of fill the seat for the next couple of years with Kevin Burke, especially since Fox has a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I believe they have the 2 out of the next 3 years. So a big decision is ahead for the Fox TV network. Keeping it with the NFL one more time, Chicago area native Miss Kay Adams has been the host of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network for the last few years. She confirmed last week that she's leaving the NFL Network. The rumor has it that she may take over the pre- and post-game duties for Amazon for their new Thursday Night Football coverage.
And I think, look, I think Good Morning Football has had a lot of, kind of a revolving door. Of course, Nate Burleson left to go to Fox, to go to CBS, I should say, full time and do the NFL Day. Of course, now he's doing the morning show, the CBS, their morning show with
news show,
their morning news show with Gail King, and then you've got now Kay Adams is leaving allegedly to go to Amazon. So I mean, I guess again, Good Morning Football, their ratings have still been pretty good, but she's been sort of one of the leading parts of that show. So whoever they get to replace, I know Colleen Wolfe, I know her name's being thrown around, perhaps maybe replacing her.
Yeah, because she does the weekend show, the weekend edition of this show.
Yeah, so that's probably gonna be a natural fit just to kind of put her doing it on the weekdays. So. But I mean, it's going to be interesting, though. I know there was some other stuff that kind of came up with her that, okay, I won't get into it, but it's definitely going to be it's definitely going to be the end of the era for that show, because she's been kind of like the stalwarts of that show. So it's going to be interesting, though. I'll just say that.
Yeah, of course you have Chicago's very young Andrew Brent. I forgot he was on the Real World Chicago way back when.
He was.
We getting the whole Lakeena.
Kyle Brandt. I remember because he was on Days of Our Lives too. I remember he played Philip Kyriakis for a couple of years.
Don't
ask me how I knew that. But that's
Google, right? Google, right?
Yeah. That's the soul fan in me that knew that. Yeah. So,
we'll give you a pass on that one. And of course, you have Peter Schrager, who also works for Fox during the regular season as well. So that, like you said, that's a great cool crew, and it's a very good show to watch. So we'll see what happens as they get the new lead host / anchor. Is it Colleen Wolfe or is it somebody from the outside? So the NFL has some decisions to make.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll be very interesting to see, what direction they go. Like I said, do they promote from within, or do they bring somebody? Or do they bring somebody else from the outside? Now, again, they're kind of going to sort of a flip as well, a transition as well. The NFL Network is, so it'll be just see what happens there as well. Now, Pat Beverly, speaking of Chicago people. Pat Beverly was making the rounds on ESPN. He had his basketball shoes. He had a white shirt and black pants, and he called Chris Paul. I don't know what he called him. He called him a bum, for all intents and purposes. And he didn't mince words about Mr. Paul, about CP3. So I'm I'm a little flabbergasted by this. Now, I don't know if they'll let him back on anymore on ESPN. I think he'll be more suited for Fox, but that's another whole nother thing. But what do you think?
I saw some of the highlights this morning. Lakeena, like you said, he was making the rounds on Get Up, and he was on that annoying show that I refused to watch, but I had it on for a couple minutes today called First Take with Screaming A. Smith and JJ Redick. Let me tell you something about JJ Redick. Even though he's done a couple playoff games for ESPN, I know they use him for studio work, including NBA Today. He's very good. I know he had a podcast for the last few years. That he is a very intelligent young man. I know Stephen A. tried to bait him a couple of times to go back and forth with him as far as yelling is concerned. And JJ Redick said, "No, let me not scoop to his ignorant level. I'll just say what I have to say, make my points that way, drop some facts, and you go on from there." I like JJ Redick, like I really do.
Yeah, he's just well, he's got that Duke education to show off. So I think Coach K probably taught him. I'm sure told him that don't let him kind of bait you into doing things. That's never been his style. So it'll be So they did a really nice job, and they were the Pat Bev thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't know. He's an interesting character, I'll say that, but I'm sure he'll be getting a lot of sort of inquiries about perhaps maybe doing television in a few years when he does retire. But it was just interesting.
Or do a podcast if he's not doing it already.
He's probably more suited for that. I think that's probably more suited for him to do a podcast. That way he can kind of go free flowing. He can curse. He can do whatever. So I'm thinking it's probably the route he goes. But
if you Colin Cowherd, he picked up Draymond Green. Could he pick up Pat Bev? Just throwing it out there.
I got to marinate on that for a second. Okay. Yeah, that would be interesting if he does that. But I think a podcast is probably will suit more for what he wants to do. So I'm thinking that's probably more his style. But again, that's just me.
Yeah, and here's a quote from Pat Beverly. He was on Get Up this morning, aka the Mike Greenberg show that I call it. Him and JJ Redick were debating about Chris Paul. Should he or should he not been benched for Game 7 last night? Here's the tweet from the NBA on ESPN. Pat Beverly says that the Suns should have benched Chris Paul instead of DeAndre Ayton. End quote. They benched the wrong person. They should have benched Chris. And that is the courtesy of Get Up on ESPN from this morning.
I mean, look, Aiden wasn't doing very well either. So I don't know what would have been, what would he have picked up on that? I mean, I know it looks like CP3 might have been banged up. I'm sure we'll probably find that out eventually. And I don't think Aiden wasn't really helping much either. So I don't know if that they were kind of stuck. Mati was probably stuck in a rock and a hard place, I feel like. But
no one played well for the Suns.
It just wasn't in for the cards for them. So unfortunately, but it is what it is. But I gotta revise my NBA Finals prediction since I had Heat and Suns initially. Now I gotta revise that. I'll say Heat and Warriors just because that was like my plan B anyway.
You think the executives over at ABC would be happy about that? Heat and Warriors?
I think so. You got like top players on both sides. I mean, the Heat are a draw, so are the Warriors.
Oh, you think Boston? You think Boston, at least in terms of market size, would be a bigger draw?
Well, I mean, look. I mean, when the Heat played the Lakers on the bubble, I mean, okay, yeah, it was the Lakers, but I think more people were probably cheering for the Heat. So, it was definitely kind of like that rated pretty well on ABC. So I don't see why the Heat have always been a draw for years, even after LeBron and them broke up. So I find it kind of silly that the Heat are not a draw. I think they are. You've got top players there. Boston, okay, yeah, you got the rich history, you got the stories and such. It's been a few years since they've been. It would be a few years since they've been in the NBA Finals, I should say. I mean, I think if you're Dallas, I mean, you got Luka. So I think if you're ABC, I think you'll be happy whatever the combination is for the finals.
All right, we'll see what happens as the conference finals for the NBA, both the East and the West, kicks off tomorrow. The Eastern Conference Finals kicks off tomorrow on ESPN, Wednesday on TNT for the Western Conference Finals. You listen to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you, wrapping up today's show. We have a couple of minutes left. Lakeena, I want to pay tribute to a legendary sports weekly show that aired on Saturdays in most markets and on Sundays in other markets. This show is not what you think. It's called This Week in Baseball. That's right. Remember the late, great Matt Allen's voice. Turn them up, y'all, on This Week in Baseball. Pardon my bad impersonation. But This Week is Baseball, abbreviated as TWIB, is an American television series which focused on Major League Baseball highlights, broadcast weekly during the baseball season and in the second incarnation prior to marquee MLB games and during rain delays. The program featured highlights of recent games, interviews with players, and other regular features. The popularity of the program, best known for its original host, New York Yankees play-by-play commentator Mel Allen, also helped influence the creation of other sports highlight programs, including ESPN SportsCenter. After its original second-decade run from 1977 to 1998, and gained a revival in 2000, which was aired on Fox prior to Saturday afternoon baseball coverage. TWIP was discounted at the end of the 2011 Major League Baseball season and replaced by the new program MLB Player Poll. When Commissioner Bowie Kuhn first took office in 1969, the only weekly showcase of Major League Baseball was the Saturday afternoon game on NBC. On the other hand, National Football League had produced its own syndicated highlight shows called This Week in Pro Football, using its in-house unit of NFL films. In response to its competition, This Week in Baseball premiered in its first run syndication in 1977. The show was originally hosted by longtime New York Yankees announcer Mel Allen. The program was typically picked up by stations that also had television rights to Major League Baseball franchises like TBS in Atlanta, KTTV in Los Angeles, and of course WGN here in Chicago. TWIP will also aired on owned and operated NBC stations as a prelude to sorts of NBC's Game of the Week telecast. According to Kurt Smith's biography on Mel Allen's entitled The Voice, the Mel Allen's Untold Story, when NBC lost the rights to the Game of the Week to CBS in 1990, TWIP scans a strong after the '89 season. TWIP proceeded to either lose their markets or move to a weaker off the independent stations. Even more so, TWIP was now under the CBS umbrella, average of 1 to 2 rating in several places, airing at midnight opposed to airing during Saturday afternoons in many markets. And so, Lakeena, it was a great program. Just a couple other notes here where Mel Allen died in 1996. The recently retired at that time Isaac Smith from the St. Louis Cardinals, Hall of Fame shortstop, took over in 1997, and it was ended in 1998. Of course, Fox, as I mentioned earlier, picked up the broadcast prior to their Saturday afternoon telecast. It actually did very well for a whole decade. So that's my tribute to old school TV shows for this week in baseball. Actually, there's a few episodes that are up on YouTube right now. Go catch them when you can. They actually had the very first episode on YouTube. They have a couple ones from 1989 featuring that Chicago Cubs NL East division-winning team, and they have a segment on the White Sox as well. I'm not gonna say what it is. You gotta go find it for yourself. But this week in baseball, I remember watching it every Saturday on WGN. On Saturdays, especially after Soul Train, and of course they aired it sometimes on Sundays before the leadoff men or for their Cubs telecast. So it was a very good program. It actually brought back some memories when I was watching it over the weekend. And so this show, as mentioned in that article that I read from Wikipedia, inspired our shows like ESPN SportsCenter, NBA Inside Stuff on NBC. Of course, Fox had their program, which didn't last that long, called NFL Under the Helmet. It was only lasted for a short time. And of course, ESPN had the NHL production show. And I actually love this program called NHL Cool Shots. It ran from the late 90s to the early 2000s. So this week in baseball was a standard for weekly syndicated shows that dedicated to their specific sports. It was just like Inside Stuff. It was a PR piece for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I watched a little bit of it too, because I remember it came on like at 12:30, like you said, right before the leadoff man on Sundays. But then sometimes it would come on, I think at about like 12 o'clock, I think after Soul Train. I actually have to turn back and forth.
12:30, around in there. Yep.
Yeah, I have to turn back and forth between, I think, because American Gladiators kind of came on during that.
That's right, on
too.
Channel 50. Now my network TV.
Well, whatever. WPWR TV.
Yeah, the power station.
The power station, as they called it back in the day. I think we're aging ourselves, Sid. But,
yes.
Look, it was such a great. I think it kind of started the trend of, like you said, of the baseball tonight, of the NBA Inside Stuffs and everything like that. Now this is before YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook. I mean,
the internet in general.
Yeah, that was like the only way you can watch highlights or little things that happened during the week in baseball. So it was definitely, I think Mel Allen was sort of like a testament to that. I think that his personality, I think, helped propel that particular show, and it just
How
wasn't the
about
same.
that?
Yeah, so he kind of added his little, personality into it. But I think you miss these kind of shows now, and I feel like, especially with baseball, you want to get that connection with the younger viewers. Unfortunately, nowadays, with like what I just mentioned, the internet and YouTube and all those things and TikTok, it's hard to kind of connect the younger viewers. If you want to get those younger viewers, have a show like This Week in Baseball come back. MLB Network. I mean, I'm surprised they're not on this. I mean, show some of the highlights from the previous week. Maybe have features with players and such. And so maybe that younger fans will actually kind of get into maybe watching more baseball or engaging more with baseball. So these are the type of shows that unfortunately it's going to be hard to do because you're competing with so much other things, like literally dozens and dozens and dozens of other things. So you miss the shows like this, simpler times, I guess, with all those great shows. Even remember the old NFL quarterback competitions they would air about this time in the summer?
Yes.
You remember that? You miss those type of things as well. So to kind of keep people engaged even during the off season. So yeah, I think networks are missing, especially even the streaming networks are kind of missing opportunities to kind of try to keep people engaged. Now the NFL doesn't really have to do that because they're always interested like all year round. They don't have to do all that. But with baseball, especially since it's still having so much trouble with younger viewers, maybe you need to bring a show like This Week in Baseball back in a particular form.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, MLB does have a weekend show called Play Ball. It basically features today's stars and giving out baseball tips and clinics and things along that line. But as far as highlight shows and things of that nature, there's a market for that. And like you said, you have more factors to compete with now.
Yeah, so it's going to be, so that's probably why it's going to be hard to kind of perhaps maybe bring back a show like that. I mean, it's okay, that show that you're talking about, Sid, but again, it doesn't kind of have that, it doesn't get that sort of pizzazz like This Week in Baseball did. So it kind of sort of lacks in that. And of course, people like, colors and pizzazz and a little bit more, sort of intricacies and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be hard, but this is a nice little trip down memory lane. I remember my dad used to watch it like every week. So in the other room, because I'd be watching cartoons and stuff.
Yeah, I hated I know in Chicago, I'm assuming in other places as well, but since we're based in Chicago, I remember, I believe it was following the strike year in '94, it moved to cable. And of course, we had 3 TVs in my house. So the living room was cable. So my mom was in charge of that. So once it moved to Sports Channel Chicago, I believe, I couldn't watch it as much when they moved off of GN and went to cable. I was so pissed.
Yeah, I still watched it a little bit even then, back then, and when it did move to the old Sports Channel Chicago. But yeah, I think once it got taken off WGN and some of the other networks and good to take the cable. But by that point, I mean, more people have gotten cable, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. But I think once the internet started kind of becoming more affordable and more prevalent.
But like I said,
other stuff. So
but like I said, Fox did a great job when they revived it in 2000. And it went on for about a decade.
Yeah, so I don't know why they took it off, but maybe they felt that it was a little bit much to try to produce it and such, or maybe there wasn't a lot of access to it. I don't know, but I'm hoping. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that maybe they need to think about bringing that back. Because I think if you want to get younger people engaged, I think this is sort of the type of thing that you want to do if you want to get that engagement from younger fans.
Yeah. So that's our tribute to This Week in Baseball.
All right,
Lakeena, wrap it up.
All right, you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG. I blend in with the NFL background.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Catch Second City Sports on the podcast by subscribing to War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes, make sure you catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday, right here live in the living color from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, enjoy the games, everybody. Got the conference finals starting in the NBA. Got the conference semifinals starting in the NHL, and yeah, you got some great baseball. To keep you occupied throughout the week. So make sure you guys check that out as well. And also to congratulations to Novak Djokovic, who wins, I believe this is his fourth Rome Open title. We already the clay court season. You got the French Open starting in a couple of weeks, so definitely, I'm sure that definitely helps him with his confidence, and he'll be able to play with the French Open as well. But with that said, enjoy the games, everybody. For Sid, I'm Lakeena. If you're not gonna get vaccinated, wash your hands and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday. Enjoy the games, everybody.
How about that? Holla!